The day my daughter Lila walked out of my life, she left a hole so deep I thought I'd never breathe again. She stood in my cramped kitchen, her designer heels clicking on the linoleum, and declared she was done with our small, pathetic life. At 22, Lila was my world, my reason for every late shift at the diner, every skipped meal to pay her college tuition. But she chose wealth over love. Her fiancé's father, a slick oil tycoon named Richard, over me. She called me an embarrassment, a relic of a life she was ashamed of. That was 3 years ago. Today she's at my doorstep, broken, pleading for forgiveness, her once glittering life in ashes. I raised Lila alone after her father died in a car accident when she was 6. We weren't rich, but we were happy in our little apartment, where the walls were thin but the laughter was thick. I worked double shifts, my hands raw from scrubbing dishes, to give her everything: a good school, piano lessons, a chance at a future I never had. Lila was bright, with a smile that could light up a room and a heart that once beat for others. But somewhere along the way she changed. College introduced her to Ethan, a charming boy with a silver spoon and a father who owned half of Houston. Richard was larger than life, with his tailored suits and promises of a world I could never touch. Lila was enchanted. When Ethan proposed, I was thrilled, thinking she'd found love. But it wasn't Ethan who won her heart, it was Richard's empire. He dangled opportunities like diamonds: a penthouse, a job at his company, a life of private jets and gala dinners. Lila started pulling away, her visits home growing shorter, her calls colder. She'd roll her eyes when I offered advice, scoff at my worn-out couch, my thrift store dresses. "Mom, you don't get it," she'd say. "Richard says I'm meant for more." I begged her to see that love and loyalty mattered more than money, but she laughed, saying I was jealous, stuck in my small-town mindset. The breaking point came when Richard offered her a choice: cut ties with me, the baggage holding her back, or lose his support. I'll never forget the way she looked at me that day, her eyes hard as steel. "You're nothing but a burden," she said. "I'm choosing a real future." She walked out and I crumpled, sobbing on the floor, the weight of her words crushing me. For months I called, texted, left voicemails, but she never answered. I heard from mutual friends that she was living the high life parties in Paris, a corner office, her face on society pages. I told myself she was happy, even if it killed me to think it. But happiness built on betrayal is a house of cards. Last week I opened my door to find Lila standing there, her face gaunt, her eyes red from crying. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by a threadbare sweater. She looked like a ghost of the girl I raised. "Mom, I was wrong," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please let me come home." I wanted to slam the door, to scream at her for the pain she caused, but something in her eyes stopped me. She was my daughter no matter what. I let her in, and over coffee the truth spilled out. Richard's empire was a mirage. His company was bleeding money, propped up by lies and shady deals. Ethan, it turned out, was spineless, complicit in his father's schemes. When the feds started closing in, Richard threw Lila under the bus, blaming her for doctored financial records she'd signed in blind trust. Her name was splashed across headlines, her reputation ruined. Ethan abandoned her and Richard cut her off, leaving her with nothing but debts and shame. She'd lost her job, her friends, her dignity. The mansion she loved was seized, her dreams of grandeur shattered. As she spoke, I felt a storm of emotions: anger, pity, love. I wanted to shake her, to say, "I told you so," but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I saw the little girl who used to cling to me during thunderstorms, who'd draw me pictures to hang on our fridge. She was still in there, somewhere, buried under the wreckage of her choices. "I thought money would make me happy," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But all I wanted was to feel like I belonged. I thought Richard could give me that. I was so stupid." I didn't know how to respond. Part of me wanted to hold her, to promise everything would be okay like I did when she was small. But another part, the part that still ached from her betrayal, wanted to push her away, to protect myself from more hurt. I'd spent 3 years rebuilding my life, finding peace in my routine, my small joys. Could I let her back in, knowing the scars she'd left? Yet, as she sat there broken and alone, I realized something. Love isn't a transaction. It's not about who deserves it or who earns it. It's about choosing to care, even when it hurts. Over the next few days, Lila stayed with me. We really talked for the first time in years. She told me about the pressure to fit into Richard's world, how she'd lost herself trying to be someone she wasn't. I told her about the nights I cried myself to sleep, the guilt I carried, wondering if I'd failed her as a mother. We didn't solve everything. Trust takes time to rebuild, but we started. I helped her find a lawyer to fight the charges, a job at a local bookstore to get back on her feet. She wasn't the confident, glittering girl from the society pages anymore, but she was trying. And so was I. One night, as we sat on my old couch sharing a pizza, she reached for my hand. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she said. "I chose the wrong things, the wrong people. You were always enough." I squeezed her hand, my heart swelling and breaking at the same time. I didn't know if we'd ever be what we were, but we were here together, starting over. Life had humbled her, and in a way it had humbled me too. I'd learned that love doesn't give up, even when it's tested, even when it's betrayed. Lila's life is far from perfect now. The legal battles loom, and the whispers of her past follow her. But she's learning to stand on her own, to find worth beyond wealth or status. And I'm learning to forgive not just her, but myself for the years I spent blaming myself for her choices. We're both works in progress, piecing together a relationship from the ruins of what was. It's not easy, but it's real. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. As I watch her sleep on the couch, a blanket tucked around her, I think about the future. It's uncertain, full of challenges we'll face together. But for the first time in years, I feel hope. Not the kind that comes from money or power, but the kind that grows from love, from second chances, from the quiet strength of family. Lila chose a glittering lie once, but now she's choosing something truest. And I'm choosing her too, because no matter how far she fell, she's still my daughter. Always will be.